Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force!
We're reclaiming the rainbow!
Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force, the upper middle class superhero team that protects your innocence any way they can. They are Tallulah, Sebastian Caden, Zoe, Quota, and Dirk.
We don't tolerate different.
We're heterosexual overdance!
Yeah!
Fighting evil in multicolored skin, tight cut off suspended.
How?
I'm happy to wait.
I don't even need to masturbate!
I did it all on the face of justice!
Sex is bad.
And violence is good!
Gonna save the neighborhood from sex.
Kung Fu Rainbow Laser Force!
Gang, the United States champion of word wrestling entertainment has returned for another edition of the Pocket Locker Podcast. I am your host with the most, all the way from the East Coast. And as always, folks, I am in airplane mode. We have got another great show lined up for you folks. Please greet your neighbor, relax, kick back, and catch a vibe. Let's jump into the musical portion of the festivities. We have got another new one for you. I think you're going to enjoy this. Go kill that fan real fast.
Woke up with my girl last night, so I went to the club. Put on a fresh white suit and I'm in the cool sitting on dubs. I'm just looking for somebody to talk to and show me some love. If you know what I mean. Everybody look at me soon as I step in the spot. 200 bitches in the building and none of them hot. Except for this pretty young thing that was looking at the top. All the way to the top. Shawty wanted to make us drinks to drink. We done gone, get drunk. Now I know she thinks I'm cool.
All right, Dave, I'll check it out. Cheers, gang. Sometimes you gotta be your own bartender up in this bitch.
I'm at the bar with Got a brand new girl, so I'm feeling like good inside. Feel like I just put some brand new 24s on a brand new ride. Chip a shot of Patron on the rocks with a little bit of lime. I'm just keeping it real. Working at the club, so I'm getting it free. It's a Wednesday night, I'm on a list, Sunny said +3. Every time I hit the spot, baby girl taking care of me.
Girl, I got that sax and I can rap. What's up? What's up, though?
Now I know she thinks I'm cool.
There it is, trees.
We gonna have fun at the spot. Looking for me. I'm at the bar with I like the bar tonight. Looking for me. I'm at the bar with I'm at the bar with Everybody who's rocking with the 2000.
All right, y'all. We got one more. For you. We're gonna keep it rolling. It's just a familiar song, new band, new cover. Let's check this out. All right, here we go. Did I mute y'all? These guys have a great vibe together.
Yeah. I see the crystal raindrops fall, and the beauty of it all is when the sun comes shining through to make those rainbows in my mind. Is when I think of you sometime. I wanna spend some time with you, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
All right, let's give away some pocket change.
Building castles way up high, just the two of us. That's you and I.
Look at the trees
We
with
look for
spurs,
love,
10,000
no
pocket
time
change.
for tears. Wasted water, so that is, and it don't make no flowers grow.
Captain Dave, second.
Good
Captain
things
Dave.
might come to those who wait, but not for those who wait too late. 'Cause we gotta go for all we know. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles way up high. Just the two of us.
Yeah, that does
That
look
you
sick,
and
actually.
I. Yeah, let's hear it, Jackie boy. Come on now. Crystal raindrops fall on the window down the hall. It becomes a morning dew, yeah. And darling, when the morning comes and I see the morning sun, I wanna be the one with you.
Yeah, that was killer.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Building castles way up high. Just the two of us. Without you and I. Just the two of us. Building castles way up high. Just the two of us. Just the two of us. Just the two of us.
that show. I was waiting for him to hit that shuffle. Oh, that was nice. That was tight. That was tight. All right, gang, let's jump straight into the main event of the evening. Gang, I'm going to say some things that, you know, a scientist maybe just don't normally say during the daytime. Gang, let me get another sip of this whiskey right here. Make sure we just going to come all the way. Good job, alcohol. Yeah, we're just going to come all the way unfiltered. All right, so here's the deal. We're going to be responding to a video of the skeptic responding to a creationist. Now, let me tell you a little something straight up, gang. Evolution destroys Christianity. It's just it's over. It's over, and it's literally all about what my main man look at the trees dropped in chat. Yes, the question of the day, gang. Is evolution the death knell for Christianity? And if you're being honest, which is a huge if, especially if you're a Christian, the answer is yes. Question of the day. Yes, no Adam and Eve means no original sin, means no need for Jesus to get inconvenienced for a weekend. And that is the part we don't talk enough about. We get it. We get it. The earth isn't 6,000 to 10,000 years old. We share common ancestry with chimpanzees. We are primates, more specifically great apes in particular. According to R and Ra, I'm kind of convinced we're monkeys. All of that's well and good. We got the DNA, we got the fossils, all of that shit is all well and good, but we do not have a candid enough conversation about how essential this is to understanding that Christian doctrine isn't true. It's like we just want to beat around the bush instead of going straight to the heart of the matter. And I guess a lot of people just aren't comfortable going there, but it really is the truth. And so there's kind of that's kind of point number one, right? Point number one is that we really do need to consider how evolution just completely destroys Christianity. It's just over. It's over. Point number two is Christians need to pay attention to this, and they're all creationists. All right, so let's quickly elaborate on those things. Point number one, you have to understand that if you really are accepting of science and the scientific method and what it has produced, it doesn't really just mean like quote unquote believing in evolution. Like it means accepting that is actually what happened, right? Like, wouldn't it be weird if people like collected Civil War memorabilia and talked about the Civil War and did Civil War reenactments, but then acted as though the Civil War never happened? That's kind of the deal here. Understanding evolution just means it's real. Like that's how we got here. We know the story. We figured it out. Congratulations, gold star. And what really kills me is somehow we've allowed people to sort of slide into the DMs of evolution, but hang on to their Christianity. No. And so it puts you in this ironic place of being like, you know what, I'm kind of with the creationists. The creationists are right. Like they really are fighting for their faith. And if the evolutionary world, if evolution wins out, then Christianity's done. And a lot of other people have just like compartmentalized it and be like, no, we're evolution accepting, but we're still Christians. That doesn't make any sense. And so let me touch on that real quick, because I don't even think this is what the skeptic video is about. I just was like, look, I don't really actually delve into the whole evolution thing a lot on this channel, which probably seems a bit odd because I'm an evolutionary biologist. But how often do you want to come home and talk about your day job on your time off? It's kind of the vibes, right? Plus, honestly, I just think it is what it is, right? Like, to me, it like the work we do as evolutionary biologists is primarily trying to, like, you know, figure out the details, right? We're trying to, you know, in my case, test evolutionary theory, understand better how it works, throw some cool hypothesis at it, see if you can get some crazy shit to happen. Like, you know, we're not sitting around like debating if evolution is true or do we have enough evidence to accept that humans actually evolved? You know, is there really good? Should we say it's okay to say that we're primates? Is that really like that's just not what the field does. It's like that's just not what it's about. So that it's kind of weird to say, but being an evolutionary biologist doesn't really entail debating the things that are essential to, disproving creationism or whatever like that. Honestly, more of that comes up in my teaching, just because I happen to teach with Rob and we, teach a course that's about that. But anyway, why does it really piss me off? So, because there's a lot of varieties of creationism, and you hear a lot of people basically say that they accept the facts of evolution, but like God did it, or, that's like, it's kind of an oxymoron when they say that, right? And I want to give y'all some simple language to deal with that. You need to remind people that science is a process that comes up that tests natural explanations about the natural world, right? So you can't say, oh, I accept that we have a natural explanation of our evolution, that being, of our origins, that being evolution, and then turn around and say, but I still believe we were created by a supernatural being. That doesn't make any sense. It literally just doesn't add up. So when a person really says that, no matter what it is, like even if they're gonna give you some shit like, God started the pre-evolution shit in the universe and set the laws in motion, and as soon as they say that shit, they're not being scientific. We don't have any scientific evidence of that shit. We don't have a scientific theory of how that happened, and which is kind of funny, right? Because it actually, to be honest with y'all, it kind of negates the theological significance of all the previous conversations too. We don't want to talk about that, but that's kind of the scientific elephant in the room, right? Like, let's say a person says they accept evolution, but they think God set it in motion, and so, they're going to hang on to the fact that we can't explain, like, the origins of the universe or, whatever the fuck it is, or where the natural laws come from or whatever. It wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, right? Because once we have a natural explanation of where we came from and how we evolved by natural means, we really have no reason to assume anything supernatural beyond that. We already know our fucking arrival on the scene is a result of completely natural processes. So once you accept that, to say, oh, but I'm gonna stick this supernatural thing on it just doesn't matter. It's just weird. It's a weird thing to do. We need to stop doing that. But y'all know that's why you don't see me debating that shit a lot. Because I'm like, if I already know we have a natural end to the story, why am I gonna start looking for like a supernatural beginning? It's just weird. That'd be weird. It's not gonna happen. Doesn't work like that. Also, it's clearly just some God of the Gaps bullshit. But why does this matter? Why are we talking about this today? Because in truth, part of the reason I hesitate to do stuff about creationists, and then this one I think we're going to be responding to somebody who's definitely an OG creationist, like total evolution denying creationists, is because in reality, I think they're all creationists. I think every single Christian, most Christians, they're creationists. They really are. And if they're not, like if they'll come out and say they're not, then they're just some wishy-washy bullshit. Sorry. They're just wishy-washy bullshit, fam. Just let it go, man. You can't really hang on to science, a scientific like approach to life, and a Christian supernatural based approach. They're contradictory. So you might as well just leave that unproductive Christian bullshit alone. But all right, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. But if you ask a lot of Christians, it's the same thing I feel about like the terms evangelical or fundamentalist, right? When we start talking shit about the evangelicals and the fundamentalists, all of a sudden the evangelicals are the Christians over there, right? All of a sudden the fundamentalists are them crazy motherfuckers over there. What if we go to First Baptist Church? No. The fundamentalists are at Second Baptist Church, and the evangelicals are the motherfuckers cross town at First Presbyterian. It's like, but who in Sunday morning amongst their own congregation will deny the Great Commission? Right? Like when the pastor gets up and says, yes, and then the Bible tells us to go forth and make disciples of nations and spread this gospel truth to the four corners of the earth. Oh, yes, Pastor, amen, hallelujah, Jesus. Yes. Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, I got an extra thick paycheck. Here, let me break y'all off with a little some of this money. Yeah, go fuck yourself. You're an evangelical, right? Yeah. All of a sudden, when evangelical becomes a bad word, nobody's evangelical. But all of a sudden, when you get them Christians, when they're amongst themselves and they don't think nobody's watching them, all they can fucking talk about is evangelism, right? And they has to be up there telling them you should be evangelizing to your friends, evangelizing to your family, evangelizing to your coworker, right? So they're all evangelicals. Don't let them fucking pull that bullshit on you. As long as they are supporting the spreading of that gospel message, they are fucking evangelical up in this bitch. Okay. Also, what does fundamental mean? Don't, philosophy bros, if you reach for a dictionary, I will throw you off a fucking bridge. Don't get up in here with your word games and your little philosopher dictionary bullshit. The truth is, we all know being a fundamentalist about anything just means holding to the core principles, really being about that life, really thinking you have the true understanding and path on a particular subject. So again, who is going to get, it's like Uncle Bobby says, have you ever met the Christian that admits that they've got the theology all fucked up? No. Every Christian you meet can tell you why, their interpretation, their version of the gospel is the real one, and they can point out all the flaws in everybody else's shit. In other words, gang, they're a fucking fundamentalist. They will tell you why they have all the fundamental aspects of the faith right, and everybody's deviation from their essential fundamental fucking understanding of the shit is fucked up. But again, when fundamentalist becomes a bad word, all of a sudden the fundamentalists are over there, and they're across the street, and they're across town, and they're those bad people you see on TV. No, fuckface. The fundamentalist is the man in the fucking mirror. I'm talking to you. So they're all evangelicals, they are all fundamentalists, and they are all fucking creationists. Let's stop playing up in this bitch. Please tell me, because again, when creationist becomes a bad word, oh no, I'm not one of those silly young earth creationists. Nigga, what the fuck are you? Bro, because please look me in my face and tell me we are not created by a God. Say it to me. Go ahead, say it to me. Tell me a God didn't create us, and I will give you a fucking pass that you were not a fucking creationist. See what I'm saying to you, gang? When creationist becomes a bad word, everybody else is a fucking creationist. But please tell me the fucking non-creationist Christian that's going to sit there on Sunday morning, and when the pastor starts talking about how God created them for this, and God created them for that, and God created them to have hope, meaning, and purpose, they're going to stand up and say, no, pastor, God, we are not created by God. Please show me the Christian that is going to actually say out loud in English words we can all understand that we are not created by a God. None of them. So please go fuck yourselves. They are all creationists. Every last one of them. Fuck out of here. I'm tired of this bullshit. All right? Now, that means all of them need to pay attention to this shit. All of them need to fucking recognize if we are evolved naturally, which the fuck we are, please go fuck yourself. Evolution is the most well-supported theory in the history of motherfucking science because it fucking had to be. All right, go fuck yourself. We have more evidence for evolution than any theory you can point to. Why? Because most of the shit, we have this shit, we're good, we test this shit, we do some experiments, we confirm this shit, and we move the fuck on. Not this shit. No. Really? Gang, please go fuck yourself. With the religious fucking stranglehold on fucking society, evolution is the most well-supported theory in the history of science because it absolutely had to be. And it is. All right? And it is the foundation for all of modern biology. So if you think you can somehow say you're with science, you support the science, and you use a scientific understanding of the world around you, but you think you can partition out evolution, you are seriously delusional. And if you think you can somehow hang on to evolution and be like, oh yeah, I accept evolution, but I'm still a Christian, you're crazy. You're just crazy. You're literally deluding yourself because, again, let's break it down. We have a natural understanding of how we came to be, and no part of it has anything to do with that bullshit story in the Bible. That means God did not create us. It means God didn't create us. He don't have the power over life. He don't have the power over death. It also means sin is not a thing. That is a fucking fairy tale. Just like when man look at the trees, let y'all know. All right? So there is no curse on the world. There is no Garden of Eden. There is no Adam and Eve. There is no such thing as sin. Ergo, there is no need for Jesus or any other savior figure to come and save us from sin. Ergo, the Christianity is bullshit. Christianity's bullshit. I mean, please go fuck yourself. We can sit here all day and talk about how science and evolution and all that shit also determines that virgins don't get pregnant, people don't come back from the dead. You know, we could extend the list of claims that, you know, a proper understanding of science disproves, but it's enough to just take that tree and chop that shit down right at the base. So from now on, when you have all these people tell you they're science accepting and they believe in evolution and but they're still a Christian, you're like, no, you don't. No, you don't. One of these things has to go. All right, gang, let's go ahead and jump into this video. I wanted to let y'all know, like that's my frame of reference for all of these things. And to be honest, it gets kind of boring after a while. Like I honestly think we've just disproven Christianity, and we just need to tell these people, like, it's not even, gang. The problem is we make this so personal, right? Like Christians, they're so emotionally attached to this idea, but it's just not true. So we just need to be very calm, cool, and collected. Be like, your religion's not true. Like, we know that. I don't even know, gang. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't even know what it means when people say they have faith anymore. It's becoming an unintelligible concept to me. And I'm gonna just keep it real with you. Again, philosophy bros, please go fuck yourself. Please put the dictionary down. I really don't care. I'm just kicking it in regular people language. Faith just means you think some shit is true. I don't want to talk about the different forms of faith and the different types of faith epistemologies and does it really mean confidence? I don't give a shit. When somebody says they have faith in something, that means they think that shit is true. Period. They just think it's true. That's what it means. So how can you think something is true that has routinely been disproven? It's contradictory. So you can still believe something that's been disproven, but you can't for any good reason. And then the people who think that, they're like avoiding it, right? Like they've been corrected. Like don't play silly. Like every fucking believer beyond a certain age has been confronted with these issues. So somebody has explained to them that their shit isn't true and why it's not true, and then they've just chosen to believe it anyway. Like that's something weird. That's something different. It's something else. It's probably just mental illness, delusion, in a really, really crazy, sick ego that can't handle the fact that like you die. Like I like that's another thing too. Is like I really get sick of like the kid gloves and considering like the emotional frailness of believers. Like you're a fucking child if you need to hang on to some toxic ass fairy tale because it tells you you'll live forever. Again, like what does it even mean to believe that? What does it mean to have faith that you're gonna live forever when you and everybody else knows goddamn well everybody dies? You know everybody dies. Like you know everybody, and you know being dead means staying dead, right? We know this shit. Well, I believe, I don't know. I don't even know what to say. Fine, faith. If we got to call that shit faith, we'll call it faith. But it doesn't even make sense to me. It really doesn't make sense to me. Shut the fuck up, Christians. Everybody dies, and you know it. We evolved. Your shit's not true. But I do love Skeptic. We're out here trying to show a little love to these other great content creators. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's take off on his ass. All right. We're going to go ahead, Autobot. There's the transform. Already full screen that shit.
Oh,
Let's
look,
rock.
Here's a mountain of evidence that supports evolution. But if you put a rug over it and pretend it's not there, then essentially, you're a creationist. Since that's what Calvin Smith here from Answers in Genesis is doing, as he demonstrates a lack of evidence for evolution.
Hey, Lean, I hope
Hello,
everything's
I'm
working out for you. Hey,
the British
Calder.
floating circle that watches people make extraordinary
Hey, Liz.
claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying, and maybe you'll agree with some of those things. It doesn't matter about the production quality of something. The truth is only the truth if it's the truth. Answers in Genesis clearly have a lot of money.
Gang, I just had to take a pause on that right there. That is so beautifully said. Please go fuck yourself. The content creators, YouTubers, we are artists. And that right there was some artsy shit. The truth is only the truth if it's true. Like, I mean, come on. It's so simple, but sometimes the simplest shit, it's like I've been watching a lot of fighting game fucking videos, and sometimes even the best players in the world do the most simple combinations. Why? Because they work and they do a lot of goddamn damage. So it's like, they're like, it's fucking effective and it's heavy and don't overthink it. Just the truth is only the truth if it's the truth. Amen,
It's only
hallelujah.
the truth if
let me run that back.
It
Here
doesn't
we
matter
go.
about the production quality of something. The truth is only the truth if it's the truth. Answers in Genesis clearly have a lot of money, and unfortunately they throw a lot of it at making high production quality videos, which may make it seem that there's more truth to the claim. Maybe they could spend more money on demonstrating the God, and not on saying, this claim is dumb because I don't understand it. Though before we're exposed to just why evolution is a lie, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and you'll hopefully be exposed to more atheist content in your feed. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos. Condor Boss 3339, Alfred the Hound 2, Robert L 4824, Tigger Lady, and Echo J ET. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. Right, time to deny some evidence of the most supported theory there is.
From its inception, The scientific proofs offered to support human evolution have been riddled with holes.
Oh, hang on. It's only human evolution, not evolution as a whole. Does that then mean that a god created beasts that could evolve? Since, we can actually see it happening in some species.
All right, also pause the tape, gang. Gang, I wish there were holes in evolution. It'd be a hell of a lot easier to get published. There's no holes in the theory. There really just isn't. There's no holes. Like, we understand the mechanism. I mean, there's still a lot of shit we're learning about it. Like, we don't understand what it can do. It's very powerful. To be honest, if y'all want to know the truth, I'm not even trying to fucking bullshit you. The issue is that we all on this planet are believed to have descended from a common ancestor. So that actually means that life on Earth is really just one example of a single natural evolved history, right? So that means we actually know basically dog shit about what the process of evolution can do, like, in total, right? Because we really just have this one example, and everything's contingent on history. So, for instance, like, how would evolution work if, fucking plants weren't here, or if there were never mammals, or on a fucking substrate that isn't carbon based, right? Like, or that doesn't rely on fucking other fucking planetary shit. Like we don't know. We don't really know. All we know about evolution is like the shit we've observed. Now, that's obviously changing through things like experimental evolution and the shit we do and computer work. And that's really important because, to believe it or not, gang, evolution is going to change everything around you. Everything. Your whole life. Everything. There's obvious examples like the fucking COVID vaccine that would not have been developed without being able to, understand the evolutionary history of said virus and the evolutionary approach you need to be able to do to design and test an effective vaccine. None of that shit works without evolution. But I'm talking about just the fact that we're only beginning, and I'm fortunate because I worked at Beacon. I worked at I got my PhD at the National Science Foundation's darling evolution center. So I got to be sort of up close and personal to see what people are working on right now. And basically it's about using evolution to solve problems, right? Like, we're not asking ourselves stupid ass questions like, did humans evolve? Are there gaps that, are there missing links in the, of course there's fucking always going to be, we didn't preserve and see everything, but those are stupid questions. Largely, we're asking ourselves questions that you could think of as sort of like, think about how we can solve problems, right? I could put a bunch of people in a room, could put a bunch of engineers in the room, right? And be like, hey, we need to come up with I'm thinking of like some civic shit. Like, we need to come up with the best system of, how to time our traffic lights, right? All right, and so and then the people would start at it, the civil engineers and all of this shit, and they maps and recreations and all of this shit, and they could do that, right? Or we could throw like some AI at it, right? Which would do something like whatever algorithmic approach we could use, right? We could throw some algorithms at it. Y'all know how algorithms go. None of us know how algorithms go, but we know algorithms go, right? So you could throw some algorithms at it, right? And that's what we think of it as. Evolution is its own kind of meta algorithm generating algorithm, right? And what happens is it tends to outperform both human design and other algorithmic automated approaches to problem solving, right? So rather than design the ultimate traffic system or hope that some AI algorithm will generate a super cool one. You will try to evolve the best system. And how would you do that? You would start with a potential population of solutions. You'd assess how well they do. You take the best ones. You allow them to make a new population. And there's mutations applied. And literally you just let evolution do its fucking thing. You let it run for a certain time. It spits out some shit. And what it spits out is pretty much always better than what humans would have designed or what other algorithm. That's what fucking matters. We are trying to unlock the potential of this bitch so we can fucking make better cities, cure diseases, come up with better fucking vaccines. You know, there's so many things. Come up with better art, right? There's like now, so you can imagine, y'all, you know, Chat GPT, that's all the big thing, okay? Well, you take like a Chat GPT and instead of having the engineers tweak it and have it you just throw you just let Chat GPT evolve. You're just gonna, and that's what's gonna happen, gang. Somebody's gonna take some Chat GPT shit. They're like, I'm just gonna throw some evolution at it, and then that's just gonna get way better. That's just how it's gonna work, right? So that's kind of where we're at these days. And what's crazy about it is it makes sense. It makes sense, but it's wild. And that's what we love about evolution, because in those situations, the solutions are like not trying to solve the problem. Right? What? Jay, what do you mean they're not trying to solve the problem? It's really weird. It's like the best way to solve a problem is evolution. But the weird thing about evolution is like, let me give you the example of frogs. All right. Right. So if you had to design an organism that was like great at croaking and jumping from lily pad to lily pad, get the fuck out of here, gang. You would not design a frog. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't think to. You would design some other transporty thing that makes sounds. I don't know. Like you would just come up with some shit, right? And we didn't get frogs. Like the frogs didn't happen because some grand scheme was like, yes, I need something that ideally does this, right? Frogs are just trying to make more frogs. Like, so literally organisms, they're just trying to reproduce. Like the thing is it just does. It's either more fit or less fit. So that's what's crazy. What's crazy is that like evolution is just evolving and shit is really, you know, surviving and reproducing is the name of the game. But as a side effect of evolution happening in the population, we get really awesome solutions, right? Because being better at solving particular problems is what gets things to be able to survive and reproduce better. So we've basically realized we can co-opt this natural process and use it like a super duper fucking engineering fucking catch-all fucking super toolkit, right? And it's fucking dope. So that's what the fuck, that for me, like that's what the fuck, you know, being an evolutionary biologist is all about. We're trying to figure out what the fuck evolution can really do and how we can turn that shit loose on actually doing it. This bullshit, just not it. It's just not it.
But because a god supposedly created humans to be the apex, which obviously we're not, we're just lucky enough to have advanced as we did. And that it's ridiculous to assume that we do share common ancestry with the other great apes and mammals and even all life on Earth. Got it.
In fact, just like the dubious sideshow examples touted by circus shysters, many of the earliest proofs were fraudulent. And modern research shows that many proofs were driven by scientific ignorance and evolutionary interpretations rather than solid evidence.
Hang on, because some things were wrong hundreds of years ago, because maybe a lack of understanding of the data, that means it's wrong now? Sure, show us what's wrong with human evolution.
However, the Bible is clear that many people attempt to deny the God of Scripture because of their unrighteousness, as a way to avoid personal judgment.
And again, this is the bullshit, fucking hand wavy, sleight of hand bullshit from the apologist, because you start by saying, oh, well, scientists, you know, some of the evidence early on they got wrong. Yeah, in you know, some, right? But how do we fix those things? Right? We fix those things by doing more science and doing better science and getting better evidence. Notice how the Christians have not come up with any evidence. You haven't even given us any fucked up evidence to fucking improve upon. And so please notice how it is not like, oh, scientists had the wrong interpretation. They misclassified a few of the old fossils. They often did so based on just looking at things with the wrong orientation and shit like that. And then they went to the Bible and they got inspired by the holy word of God. And then they went back into the field and that's what fixed it. No. Science may have fucked up some shit in the past, but the only way to fix it is to do more and better science. And please notice how obvious even fucking Answers in Genesis knows that is. Because they literally say that shit and then they immediately shift to fucking back to talking about the Bible. So they point out that you shouldn't really believe all of the evidence for human evolution because there are some issues with the scientific evidence, which is a fucking confession that we should base our understanding about what is the best of based on the fucking evidence. And then they go, oh, but the Bible says. These are dishonest people, gang. And I take this shit personally. I'm gonna be honest with you, I take this shit, I get really riled up about this shit because Christians buy into this shit. And it's hard for me to admit this, but like even my own mom buys into this bullshit, or at least has at one point in the past. Like I remember her coming to visit me one time when I was in grad school and, you know, trying to do her good Christian mother best to wrap her head around the fact that I was studying evolution. And then she actually said to me, have you ever heard of the Creation Museum, which is, you know, Answers in Genesis. That's not Answers in Genesis. That's fucking Ken Ham's fucking Ark shit, right? Same flavor of creationist bullshit. Oh wait, that is them. I'm drinking too much whiskey. Anyway, but like that was such a hard conversation, gang. To have to explain to her that that's not really a museum. Creation isn't really science. That it isn't really true. And you know, my family's still Christian. They're still desperate to hold on to this stuff. And the fact that they present this shit as though it's true, as though it's, you know, as though it's history, as though it's museum level education, it really does fuck with people. And to be honest with you, gang, damn, I don't know where all this is coming from. I'm just telling y'all everything. But part of what really motivated me to get active in this community was I actually at one point like really wanted to generate momentum for people to like go after organizations like Answers in Genesis for like fraud, right? For the like organized crime, like RICO statutes, y'all. For like organized fraud committed for the purpose of like miseducating children, which I think is abuse. And I think it's its own crime that we don't have more public animosity and pushback towards Christianity. Christianity is the fucking elephant in the room, and we're never willing to talk about it. And it isn't true. It isn't true, gang. And we know it isn't true. And yet we still let the majority of people identify with this fucking cult, no matter how horrible they make life for everybody else. It really pisses me off. But yeah, it's touched my own life and my own relationships with my family, which are strained, right? I have a strained relationship with my family because we don't live in the same fucking reality. It's why I get so pissed about this shit. Like, I'm so sick of, you know, go fuck yourself. If go sit on the fucking sideline if this isn't a personal issue for you. Because it gets like talking about, like hearing everybody talk about the queer issues, or hear everybody talk about race, hear everybody talk about these fucking issues, and they don't have a fucking clue what it's like to actually be affected by you. If you just became an atheist and all the Christian people in your life fucking cheered you on, and they were like, yeah, go shut the fuck up and go stand over there. Because some of us are dealing with the fact that the people we actually need in our fucking life, we can't have a real fucking relationship with. Because they're in a fucking cult that hates people like us. And if you think I should have a fucking calm, collected conversation with those assholes, you can go fuck yourself. Seriously, I'm gonna just play this tape. I'm angry.
Sin.
And in the book of Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, Leaf be upon her, it's clear that many people deny evolution because they're convinced, for bad reasons, that the Bible is the truth, even though it's never been demonstrated to be.
In essence, many are willing to believe a lie rather than the truth if it suits their purpose. They become compliant with error and are willing to be deceived.
You mean, like, I think a God is real, and I want to go to a floaty skyland, so I have to believe that a God is real, and that the actual evidence for evolution is completely made up. And if a church leader finds out that you believe in stuff that's anti-God, you're shunned, so you pretend that it doesn't make sense. Maybe.
Perhaps it's like the saying often attributed to P.T. Barnum says, "There's a sucker born every minute."
And most of them are in the church.
Take Neanderthals, for example.
Facts.
In 1856, workmen digging in a cave in the Neander Valley, near Dusseldorf in Germany, discovered a fossilized skull cap, 2 femurs, and bone fragments. Examined by
All right, now please go tell me where we found the Garden of Eden and we dug it up. We found part of a skull and a bunch of other bones. And then we can start talking about the theory of creation. And we can start talking about we can start talking about biblical evidence.
Professor Schaffhausen, a professional anatomist, he concluded that they were fully human. However, 4 years later, after the release of Darwin's On the Origin of Species, the search for fossils of imagined ape-like ancestors of man increased with much vigor amongst naturalists.
Or, you know, they knew roughly where to look and started digging, finding more and more evidence of different human-like creatures.
And lo and behold,
they sure did. Also, I gotta be honest with y'all. This is a very interesting but weird word game he's playing here. I know a lot of y'all now, when he says naturalist, y'all hear sort of like this sort of philosophical predisposition we talk about, right? Where people, you know, they have a naturalistic, as is often called, worldview. And I think they know that there's that loaded connotation so that you can hear it and say, oh, the people who were finding this evidence sort of had this, you know, anti-supernaturalistic bias, right? But that's not the case. And most of them did not. In fact, a lot of them probably identified as Christians, unfortunately. Naturalist is actually what people who are now called biologists were called before the field was called biology. So it's not. And again, it's not dishonest to say that naturalists did this. It just needs to be kind of mentioned because I think people don't often recognize that was the title of the job. As a matter of fact, it still kind of is. Like I always thought it'd be super cool to be a naturalist. It's a great job description, but even like now, like one of the top 3 societies in the field of evolution that a lot of us work with, great society, is called the American Society of Naturalists, right? ASN. So it's still technically in use.
behold, Irish geologist William King decided to re-examine the fossil skull of Neanderthal man and see what he thought. His conclusion? Like other Darwinians of the day, he argued against the professional opinion of an expert anatomist that Neanderthal man was an ape-like creature. And so positive was he that he actually declared, "The thoughts and desires which once dwelt within it never soared beyond those of the brute." Such clairvoyant ability as to somehow perceive the fossilized thoughts emanating from a collection of bones demonstrates his obvious evolutionary bias.
And we're talking about a scientist that was born over 200 years ago. Yes, he may have said that, and it might be silly, but no more silly than folks believing they hear and understand the thoughts of an undemonstrated being coming from a book. It doesn't change the fact that bones are from a different hominid. It doesn't show a bias, it just shows that people fill gaps when they don't have sufficient data.
And this wild...
Yeah, and also this is just... I was noticing the same thing. I'm really glad he pointed it out. And a lot of these, all of these type of inferences are not unreasonable. A lot of times these inferences are based on, you could think of them as like comparative archaeology, right? If you were to dig up, all of us leave a footprint of our lives, and let's just think of it as trash, right? Because trash is fucking tells the whole story a lot of times. And that's what archaeologists apparently love to do. Apparently they just love to find trash. All right, but if we go through your trash, right, we're going to find a lot of crazy signs of modern life, like crazy packaging. It was clearly made by wild and ass machines, and we'll probably find gadgets, right? People crack a phone, they throw that shit out. You find that. You find some others that aren't good. You go, what the fuck is this? You find out it's a fucking supercomputer that people use. Like, in other words, we could sort of use our footprint to infer a lot of things about our life, what we eat, what our sexual practices are. We find condoms. These condoms, these are an interesting thing to find in the garbage. Oh, what do people do with these? You know, like, so you can find out a lot, right? And so a lot of times they're just comparing, and you know, we know as we go further back in the evolutionary record or different parts of the world, you find, you know, qualitatively different types of. So if you find more rudimentary tools or indicators that, you know, people, you know, didn't travel that far. They lived in smaller groups and all these things. So you can then infer, you know, that they live different lifestyles. Now, you're not always correct in your inferences, but a lot of it is just, I just want to say, like, gang, you'd be blown away with how deep and sophisticated the methods and the evidence is for a lot of this stuff, because people we're able to do those comparative things. And then also we do stuff like even between, that's like, this is like within, you could say, like, it's like within, I don't know, like within a phyla, like within a clade, right? But we could also do this, you would do this in other clades. So like you could go into, say, other groups of animals that make tools, or other groups of animals that like leave sophisticated cultural imprints, like bird songs or whatever, right? And you could do similar comparative analysis and measures, and it makes these inferences even stronger. So the way they talk about it, they brush it aside, like, oh, they found a few bones, and then they just you know, made up this crazy ass story about, oh, these brutes didn't know a goddamn thing, and isn't this wild? They're just speculating on holes. It's like, bro, if you got into how these people really make them inferences, right? But then again, there's such a huge point of the sort of the whole straw manning of going so far back in the past instead of basing your critique or your argument based on the best evidence we have, right? You guys would call that steel manning or whatever. But notice that they don't ever do that. They're always like, look how silly this scientist in the past was. It's a real move in poor taste, because obviously this person from 200 years ago does not represent the current evolutionary thinking and reasoning or the evidence to support it.
The speculation wasn't simply against the opinion of one lone expert from across the aisle of human origin ideology. It flew in the face of no other than the great anatomist Rudolf Virchow, one of the most prominent physicians of the 19th century, who also argued that Neanderthals were fully human in every respect, with any abnormalities being the result of their suffering from rickets or arthritis. However, depictions of Neanderthals as stooped-over ape men began to proliferate evolutionary literature. and such representations were mimicked in the circuses and carnival freak shows of the day. The evolutionary mindset took hold of all sectors of society.
I'm not sure how this is a lack of evidence for evolution, though. But keep it going with the high production value. This is great.
Becoming the evolutionary memes of their day. For example, in 1929, life-sized statues of bestial Neanderthals greeted visitors viewing Chicago's Field Museum of Natural History and were only replaced relatively recently. After an overwhelming amount of evidence collected over the years proved that Neanderthals were simply powerfully built people, well within the modern range of human anatomy, they were replaced with more modern depictions, which today look like normal humans.
And alligators and crocodiles look similar, but are different. Asian and African elephants, also similar, but are different. Butterflies and moths. Just because something looks similar to something else, it doesn't make it the same species.
A current Chicago Field Museum article states, the first of 2 Neanderthal family dioramas were installed in 1929. In the early 1970s, the Neanderthal figures were replaced with new ones. By 1994, the Hall of the Stone Age of the Old World exhibit had been dismantled because most were considered to be scientifically inaccurate. The hall had included the Neanderthal family.
Now pause the tape. Now imagine how this is a problem. It got better. They updated it. They got new and better information. And please again notice how this is the work of the field. It's figuring out the details, updating the models, taking in better and new information, spitting out even better and new information. And the educators and people, all that shit costs a lot of money, by the way. But you know, they're in the game too. They're trying to get their funding, and when they get it, they're trying to update things so that their depictions are more accurate. Science changes with time. Please notice how religion doesn't, because it doesn't produce any evidence of anything to base updating even on. Again, they're not even in the game, and it's why it's so frustrating dealing with creationists. But like I said, they're all creationists.
Science continues to learn. It doesn't stick its metaphorical fingers in its metaphorical ears and say, la la la, I can't hear you, when something new's uncovered. Unlike religion, especially Jesus-y ones that won't listen to the fact that if Jesus was a real person, and obviously not some supernatural being, he would have had much darker skin than he's actually depicted with.
So, despite their still being used as examples of our supposed primitive ancestors in popular movies and catchy commercials, such as the simple enough for a caveman to do it series today, Neanderthals were never subhuman.
Who said they were subhuman?
What the fuck?
They were just another branch on a diverse hominid tree.
That
so
idea
weird.
was always a
weird
false
thing to say.
imposition applied upon the facts rather than derived directly from them.
No.
And perhaps the most definitive confirmation of this comes from no less than Dr. Eric
Okay,
Trinka.
all right, Christians. Oh my goodness, I wish that dude was here. Go ahead, like Uncle Bobby would say. Go ahead, pull your pants down and put your meat right there on the table. Nut up or shut up, right? I mean, this is just. I'm gonna just say, gang, this is the meta MO. It's not just creation and evolution. It's Big Bang cosmology, old Earth, geology, whatever science they don't. The science of gender, all that shit. The science of race, all that shit. It is poke holes in the opposition and avoid defending yours at all costs, like your life depends on it, because it does. This is just, they just have to fill the time and run out the clock with trying to point out what the other side don't have, instead of, putting up positive evidence for what they actually believe, because there isn't any.
Yeah, what we need is confirmation of something already known to make it seem like you know what you're talking about, so people go, oh, he knows what he's talking about, so what he says about evolution being wrong must be true. Nope. But what does Eric say?
A paleoanthropologist specializing in Neanderthals, early modern human biology, and human evolution. He's considered one of the world's foremost authorities on Neanderthal man, And he has concluded, detailed comparisons of Neanderthal skeletal remains with those of modern humans have shown that there's nothing in Neanderthal anatomy that conclusively indicates locomotor, manipulative, intellectual, or linguistic abilities inferior to those of modern humans. So, evolutionists used Neanderthals for approximately 175 years to lace the minds of millions with evolutionary ideas of proto-human derivatives, only to
All right,
later...
gang, you already know he said my trigger word, and if you don't, that means you're new here. We're not evolutionist. The word is evolutionary biologist. That's what it is. Everybody say it at home. Evolutionary biologist. One more time. Evolutionary biologist. I hate that evolutionist bullshit. It's, so annoying.
affirm their full humanity.
And yet, still different enough to be their own species. How is that difficult to understand?
But what about other examples that have been offered to the public? The most famous hoax, and one that is much bemoaned among the evolutionary community,
Bigfoot. It's Bigfoot, isn't it?
is the famous Piltdown Man. The supposed ape-man skull and jawbone was found in 1912 by a laborer digging in a gravel pit near the town of Piltdown in England.
Oh, those pesky Brits. You can't trust them, I say.
Gang, this is shit they teach all anthropology undergrads as quirky history from the field. Nobody's afraid of this. Nobody is quivering over this example. People are trying not to giggle when it comes up.
Announced that both pieces came from the same ancient ape man and dubbed Piltdown Man. For 40 years, this supposed proof of human evolution was displayed in museum exhibits and textbooks as proof positive that human beings had descended from ape-like ancestors. With hand-drawn, supposed scientific images of what the creature must have looked like, all with amazing similarity to how the freak show missing links were portrayed, described, and depicted by their promotional artists as well. Only after 4 decades was the evidence re-examined and revealed as a fraud.
What did he say? What did he say, y'all? Did I catch that right? What? Say that again?
And depicted by their promotional artists as well. Only after 4 decades was the evidence re-examined and revealed as a fraud.
He said, see, only after 40 years was what? The evidence examined. The evidence was examined. See, that's where y'all split off the track, and we're trying to have a race around the spa or something. We're just getting our fucking F1 on, racing around the course, and you guys just jump on a fucking dirt bike and start fucking jumping off through the forest, off the track, crash into a fucking tree, and then say you've won the down here slalom ski competition in the Olympics. You have no evidence to bring to the table, and every single time these fuckfaces are like Donald Trump. Every time you put a camera in front of you to clear the air, you just indict yourself and reveal how fucking foolish you are. This is how science works, and everybody knows this is how science works. It is called taking in that new information, making those critical changes, revising and making things more up to date. That's the problem. It's actually what y'all need to do but can't. How ridiculous is it? Christian, I'm gonna just go ahead and keep it G. I spent like 3 decades, like the better part of 3 decades as a Christian, y'all. Let me tell you something. It is not hard for me to remember all that Christian bullshit. So Christians, let's just keep it G. When the fuck are y'all gonna come out with a third testament? Come on now, y'all look. You got the Old Testament and the fucking flood and the bullshit and the slavery and all that bullshit. Then you got Jesus, and he was sitting on some bullshit kind of too. But y'all know y'all need that third testament. Y'all know y'all need to update that shit so y'all could like take credit for a new message that fucking takes in all the shit that y'all know. Y'all don't really look. Y'all kind of look kind of bigoted and kind of weird on. You know what I mean? And then pretend like it was really a message from God, and then it'd be a lot easier for y'all to do y'all marketing. When y'all going to do that? You can't. You just can't. Because the one thing your religion does not permit is fucking change. It's amazing how it changed all them years ago for a long time, right? It's so crazy. It's kind of like the Constitution, right? Like they wrote the Constitution. It took a hot minute for that Constitution to evolve. It took all sorts of arguments and debates and revisions. And then they have amended it like a whole bunch of times since then. But now they treat that shit like, oh no, it is fucking set in stone and carved out by God himself. And, like every word of it is sacred and shall never be changed. And me personally, I say we burn that shit to the ground and write a new one, but whatever. It just reveals that we are not playing the same game. Our game is all about evidence. It's all about change. Like you want this. Y'all already know who I'm talking. I mean, man, I'm just ranting to y'all, man. Y'all. I know my audience is with it.
And it wasn't even a good fraud, as one could easily see how the teeth from the jawbone had been filed down to make them look more human, and the bones had been chemically treated to make them look very old. It was simply a combination of an old human skull and a modern ape jawbone stuck together.
Oh no! Someone wanted to be the first to discover something, maybe so they could make a ton of money over 100 years ago. But science said, no, this is wrong.
Also, what's that fool's name? Like Ron Wyatt, right? Like, Christians, do y'all really want to go there? Do y'all really want to have this conversation about fraudulent finds and sites? Because let's just keep it G. Let's just keep it G, y'all. Yes, some people, given the potentially personally high stakes for some people involved in scientific endeavors, have done some fraudulent shit. It's true. It's true. But check it out, gang. You don't have to have a PhD to understand what I'm trying to break down for you. Please notice how I said some scientific things have been fraudulent. Yeah, sure. Now let's examine the record of Christian finds that accord with the Bible. What does that look like? All the Noah's flood sites and all the shit from the bullshit in the Exodus and all the shit about Jesus' birthplace and Jesus' burial and Jesus is this and blah, 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 and this river and the reed and every single unique one has been bullshit. The only history y'all have is the same history we have according to naturalistic fucking regular ass history. Again, the model of the history as though your God does not exist. Everywhere your Bible overlaps with some regular ass shit, yeah, Pontius Pilate was indeed the procurator, you're good to go. Every time y'all make a fucking unique claim that is fucking central to your fucking religion, y'all are sitting on some bullshit. And you are teamed up with the motherfuckers with the fucking Ark Park or whatever, all that bullshit. Y'all are in the fucking business of producing fraudulent educational displays. Man, let's fuck up out of here.
Shame that science proved older supposed science wrong. But hey, science isn't afraid to say when it's wrong. It's happy to say, well, here's why it's wrong. Let's learn from it. Don't you also hate it when folks focus on something like the fake skull and try to make it proof of the existence of something when there's no other data to support it? How's that Shroud of Turin again?
We raise this example today not simply to rub it in that one evidence for evolution has been disproven.
That's good, because there are mountains and mountains of actual non-fabricated evidence which doesn't give a crap about a hoax.
But to point out that the acceptance and promotion of such evidence by professionals for over 40 years
but 100 years ago
can only be attributed to one of two things. Pathetic scientific acumen displayed by the evolutionary scientists of the day, or an agenda that made people willing to overlook the obvious fraud to accomplish its ideologic goals.
Or some folks wanted to get rich quick.
For hundreds of people involved in producing museum-grade copies of the exhibit, distributing them to various museums around the world, and producing numerous textbook diagrams and descriptions based on the evidence, all not to detect the fraud, seems highly suspicious or perhaps negligent at best.
It took them 40 years. Maybe because technology wasn't advanced enough to see. Maybe these types of studies weren't as well researched. There are plenty of options, not just the main one that helps your narrative.
Now, just 5 years later, a Nebraskan rancher found what he thought was a special kind of tooth on his farm. And an evolutionist paleontologist friend of his was excited at the prospect that it might be from an ape man. Once again, an artist with a...
Gang, I'm just going to say, if you ever rolled into a conference talking about some evolutionist paleontologist, gang, let's just say everyone would know right away that you are not to be taken seriously. If you literally cannot address people with like the proper name of their profession, again, and it's pretty much let the people in the club define the club. If somebody is a paleontologist, you're just like, they're a paleontologist. If they study evolution, like, that's a paleontologist who works on evolution. Gang, there are zero people who are going to shake your hand and be like, hi, I'm such and such, an evolutionist paleontologist. Like, right? So they literally would be playing make-believe. Like, it would be like going to an academic conference. Gang, please go fuck yourself. We can all relate to this, right? We know there's a difference between like a professional conference, like a work conference, you know, one of them things your job sends you to present your work and get some fucking professional development and all that shit, right? Versus a recreational conference that you might go to because you want to cosplay for the weekend or you want to do some LARPing, right? These motherfuckers would actually be LARPing, fucking cosplaying at the goddamn work conference.
Healthy helping of evolutionary imagination produced a portrait of Nebraska Man, a hairy ape man, along with his ape woman wife, complete with an ape woman bob cut, apparently to make her appear feminine but not too feminine. Several years later, scientists confirmed that the tooth had come from a type of pig. The whole fiasco had nothing to do with apes or people.
All right, pause the tape. Now, this is another little slippity. So first off, again, nobody cares. Please notice how people did more and better science, which generated new information. The new information was taken into account, and the mistake was fixed. Christians, just go ahead and do that one time. Hit us up in the comment section, and we could really sit down and get into this thing. All right? But until y'all show that you can even do that, like, please go fuck yourself. Christians, like, I'm talking about some basic shit. Like, print a Bible that removes the shit where God, like, is all about the slavery. Just take it out. Just you could literally just fucking take it out. And then go through and again, like, start thinking of some shit that's really not selling right now. I'm trying, Christians, we, you know, every once in a while we get bored and we decide to help y'all out. We decide to toss some fucking free advice your way. You know, we're just in a generous mood. Christians, just please present a new, updated, I don't know what to call it. Call it the fucking I don't know, the 2024 Testament or something. And just get rid of some of that shit. All right? call it the NUV, the NUV, the new universal version, right? And just say it's the universal version of the Bible, and we have finally realized that God is for everybody and the gospel is for everyone. And since we realized that there was some shit that we had let slip through the cracks, and so we went through and we fixed it, and we got rid of all the bloody shit and the fucking gore and the fucking genocides and the fucking, y'all know you got to get rid of that queer language, man. If y'all don't get rid of that anti-LGBTQ language, ain't none of us approving that shit. All right, you're gonna have to get rid of all of that shit, right? And then when you do that, now you might not have much of a Bible left, but nevertheless, like, cool, like go sell that, man. And then when people will flip it through, they won't even see that stuff. And then when other people bring it up, you be like, oh no, that's the excluded text. We don't even fuck with that. God revealed his holy ways to us, and that we condemn that stuff. That was fraudulent. We took in some new information about God's love, and that shit's fraudulent, and we fucking canceled that shit. That's not true Christianity. Go ahead, Christian. Hey, please act like we're stopping you. Please act like we have made it illegal for y'all to take in some new information and switch your shit up. You could literally just take all the shit we give you in science and then just put that shit in a new Bible. You can be like, yeah, science is revealing new truths to us. And so we've updated God's word because God is true and science is true too. And so what is revealed must be in, through him, of him, from him. And so please go fuck yourself. Literally, there is nothing stopping you from updating your shit on some new information, but you won't. It's crazy.
Had everything to do with evolutionary presuppositions that drove false conclusions, all based on laughably flimsy evidence.
Or people wanting to be recognized but failing miserably. And hang on, was it religion that said, no, that's a pig tooth? Or was it scientific methods that worked out what it was?
Exactly.
That's right. Not religion.
Much as how the carnivals cycled through the unfortunate.
I know what else I wanted to tell you, gang. I'm dropping in little sprinkles of the educational shit because I've gone through the educational shit. All right. So another thing that needs to be brought up in this is that, again, things you'd be amazed about. If you look into these topics, human evolution, hominid evolution in particular, you'll recognize that a lot of times, because of the materials, right? Because of the laws of nature, right? Teeth are often what is preserved at a site. And so there's a lot of identification that is done based on teeth. And sometimes when you don't have a lot of sample material, often what you have is small bones of different parts of the body. And you have to make a lot of inferences based on limited evidence. But again, a lot of it is based on dental evidence, and so it's not as, again, it's not as like crazy and speculative. It's very strict discipline. Yes, mistakes can sometimes happen, but usually what happens is we find more evidence, and that evidence confirms what people think. And now y'all know we can do all sorts of different stuff with those teeth. So that's how these type of things get corrected.
Past, a whole slew of proposed human ancestors have come and gone over the years as a carousel of caveman candidates have been proposed, debunked, reassigned, or removed from the forefront of human evolutionary thought.
Well, that's a bit of a stretch. They haven't been debunked or removed. Wouldn't it be more accurate to say that you're just dismissing the different species because it goes against the godly agenda? Yes, some of these extra things from a few hundred years ago were made up.
Facts,
who knows
man.
why? But there are tons of documented remains of different, demonstrable species of other hominid that are no longer alive.
Cro-Magnon, Peking man, Java man, Ramapithecus. All of these were once shouted from the proverbial rooftops in both popular news articles and serious scientific publications. as proof
All right,
of
Lena,
evolution.
we'll see you soon.
Yes, hundreds of years ago. But science got better and could delve deeper. Cro-Magnon, Peking and Java Man are all roughly modern humans, but Ramapithecus is now classified as closer to the orangutan lineage. So what? That doesn't mean all findings are null and void. You're forgetting many others. Neanderthals, which still existed despite you saying nuh-uh, Homo habilis, Australopithecus afarensis, Australopithecus africanus, Ardipithecus ramidus, Paranthropus robustus, Homo heidelbergensis, Chianthropus platyops, and many more not listed.
Only to later lose favor among the more progressive evolutionary community. Currently popular candidates such as Homo erectus are not faring much better under scrutiny.
Under whose scrutiny? Yours? Doesn't count, mate.
Although smaller than the average human is today, the brain size is within the range of modern people. And studies of the middle ear have shown that Homo erectus walk just as we do.
So because so many things are similar, you're saying that they're the same? Like monkeys and squirrels are the same. They climb trees and have tails. Or sea lions and fish are the same because they swim well. Come on, this can't be a real argument.
There's nothing about their skeletons that fall outside of the normal human range. And their remains have been found in the same strata near ordinary Homo sapiens. Clear evidence that they live together.
Different species of birds live together. That doesn't make them all the same type of bird.
Given the range of heights, sizes, and features that we see among the fully human race today, they're not exactly anything to write your evolutionary thesis about.
Not exactly true. If two parents are tall and their offspring are also tall, that's evolution at work. That's an observation to write about.
However, there's still one very popular contender often discussed. The famous fossil find called Lucy.
Here we go.
Again, and what do you mean candidate? Like again, they're trying to ask such a narrow question. Like, oh, let's who are the candidates for the direct answers, and then we can toss them all out because we don't know exactly who. Like, again, this is a total misrepresentation of evolution, of evolutionary theory, of the type of questions you would test, of the type of how you would test them. Again, all he's doing is really documenting, some, but particularly relevant pieces of evidence that we have of this vast, diverse family of animals, we often say, known as the hominins, our closely related ancestors. And again, it's undeniable. Even the creationist has to use the conspicuous evidence in their argument. They're just like, yeah, we have this bone, but that can't be the right one. Yeah, and then we've got this skull that looks kind of like a human, and this is cool, but none of these guys are. It's just really pathetic. It's like being a snake oil salesman, but like being a snake oil salesman in 2023. Not a snake oil salesman back in the day when you could like get over on people and like people, could placebo. You could placebo away your effect to a fucking business empire. But it feels like doing it in 2023 when people could just pick up their phones and be like, should I buy snake oil? And get the answer. But somehow they've got that subscription list. I can't even, again, and here's the thing. I don't want to get too heavy on y'all, but maybe I do. Like, there has to come a point when you have to start thinking seriously about coercion. What do I mean by that? Are Christians really Christians of their own accord? I think they're victims of abuse, genuinely, 100%. Wouldn't hesitate to say it any day of the week. Christians are victims of abuse. Most have been indoctrinated since they were children. So can they really, of their own accord, evaluate what's going on? So then when you have organizations like Answers in Genesis, they're literally grifters who are exploiting a vast population of unfit consumers who are not fit to evaluate and make competent decisions when it comes to this thing. And I don't take any great pleasure in saying that, but there comes a point where I just think we got to start moving in a radically different way. Y'all know me. I think we need a really public brouhaha, falling out. You know, let's just we really need to have a big, massive coming out and letting people know that religion isn't true and making that a huge part of our public discourse. But going beyond that, we have to stop hoping that people are going to wake up and walk out the door on their own. And I think that's hard for us because we're part of like a really probably rare group that did. And it's increasing and all of that, but it's very clear to me that not everybody's gonna have whatever combination of experience and resources it took for us to leave on our own. And I think it kind of sets up maybe a false expectation. And I think probably the better way to think of it is almost like refugees or something, people who you have to just objectively look at and be like, they're in a bad situation, they need our help, they need to get out of there. And then proceed with the understanding that they may not have the resources to materialize their own liberation. I know that sounds paternalistic, but, you know, if someone can't pull himself out of the fire, you call the fucking fire department.
Q thinking that Lucy is the only Australopithecus afarensis ever discovered. Something about missing bones and whatnot, hoping that proves that early human ancestors and species we share common ancestors with are all lies.
Australopithecus afarensis, popularly known as Lucy,
It's just the one that's called Lucy.
is still the most well-known modern example of supposed human evolution today. She was once much touted as our supposed ancestor and uniquely named because of the Beatles song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. It was playing when she was assembled by the team that found her in Ethiopia. However, her star has faded. For example,
really.
One of the main reasons evolutionists suggest that Lucy walked on 2 feet instead of 4s like the ape she resembles is that she was found near a set of fossilized human-looking footprints in a rock layer that they believed had formed at the time Lucy lived, but dated as older than human existence. They then concluded that these footprints must have come from Lucy's kind, and museum reconstruction gave her human-looking feet. However, they later found such tracks a full 932 miles, nearly 1,500 kilometers, away from Lucy's bones in Tanzania. A far better explanation is that their evolutionary assumptions are just wrong.
That there were also
perhaps
hominins
they
in
were at that moment,
Tanzania?
but that doesn't stop the Lucy fossil or other Australopithecus
Holy
afarensis
shit.
fossils from existing.
And that they're simply a set of human footprints that have nothing to do with the cobbled together group of bones called Lucy, that aren't necessarily even collected from the same creature. You see, many laypersons likely imagine that specimens like Lucy were found in a heap and carefully retrieved as a somewhat articulated skeleton that clearly shows these ape-like hominids in similar form to how their reconstructions are shown in books and museum replicas. However, her skeleton is only 40%
Gang, you can look up 3D primate skeletons, and you can go look at the evidence for yourself, and you will see where they've scanned in exactly the evidence that we have. He is just literally talking out his ass, and an 8th grader could debunk this nonsense.
complete.
So it's a good thing that she's not the only fossil of that species being studied, right? There's another one. one of hundreds found in 1995 that took 15 years to excavate, called Littlefoot. This one is around 90% complete. All this is like debunking one creationist's wacky ideas and then saying creationists don't exist anymore.
A 2015 New Scientist article reported, a careful look at the ancient hominin skeleton suggests that one bone may actually belong to a baboon. Now, statues portraying Lucy in museums to this day display her walking upright with human-like hands and feet. However, when Lucy was found, she didn't have hands, just 3 left hand bones that were incomplete and not human-like, or feet whatsoever.
And gang, why the fuck do you think there was 2 different types of material used on the Lucy example in the museum? Typically, one shows the bones that we found, and the other show you, sort of the filled-in picture. And again, we have hundreds of other specimens to fill in that picture. It's just stupid.
Maybe they were ape-like hands, which may be a more accurate description of what ours are too, since, we're apes. And if the hip and leg bones are set a certain way, you can tell the position a creature like Lucy would have moved around. Back then, with no other data to go on, the finders may have assumed what the feet looked like given what they know about bipedal movement. But then they found more fossils of the same species, which meant they readjusted. It's not difficult and doesn't stop the species from having existed.
These depictions were assumed based off of the footprints found 1,500 kilometers away, with no other physical evidence whatsoever. And scientists have since found other, more complete skeletons of such Australopithecines, which do include hand and feet bones. And from them, we can make a safe guess that Lucy's hands had long, curved fingers, suited for climbing in trees, and that Lucy's feet had opposable toes seen in the hand-like feet of apes that could easily grab and climb.
You know what other creatures have that?
Goodness.
Baboons and gorillas, and yet they spend the majority of their time on the ground. So that doesn't stop them from being some distant cousin of ours.
She didn't have human-like feet. Detailed studies of the inner ears, skulls, and bones suggest that Lucy and her like were not, in fact, transitioning to human anytime soon.
This is just such a weird argument. Again, this is exactly what you would predict under evolution, that, we have some features in common, some are different. That's why Lucy would have different shared derived characteristics, how we know it's a different species and from a different clade. This is odd.
Things don't evolve like Pokemon. It would take thousands or hundreds of thousands of generations from a creature like Lucy to reach what we recognize as humans. Someone doesn't understand how evolution works.
They may have walked more upright than most apes, but not like humans.
Well, who's saying that they did? Or why does it even matter exactly how they walked? Between is probably actually a good thing.
Once all of the evolutionary ideologies and interpretations are stripped away, Australopithecus afarensis is very similar to a pygmy chimpanzee.
Oh, of course, a creature that doesn't actually exist. What you mean is bonobo, which, that's right, are a different species to actual chimpanzees. They're not the same. How is he not grasping this?
A key to understanding all of this can be found in one of the more famous attractions of the Pickard's Museum, Trongate, circa 1908, in the character that was known as Solomon the Man-Monkey. In a reversal of the typical missing link sideshow attractions, Solomon was an actual chimpanzee, dressed up in men's Victorian finery and allowed to wander around. People were amused at the absurdity of seeing an ape aping a man.
I wonder where else we see apes dressed like humans. Oh, that's right, everywhere, because we're all apes.
And he too was touted as Darwin's missing link.
Oh,
in essence, these examples demonstrate both ends of the spectrum of man's attempts to provide evidence for human evolution.
No.
Naturalists have looked for the most human-looking ape fossils they could find, or conversely, the most ape-like human fossils possible. However, as Kipling said, "Oh, east is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet."
And you're also demonstrating that people say stupid things that make no sense. I'm from the east of the Atlantic. My wife is from the west of it. We met. And people change cultures all the time, which is what this is actually about. Nothing to do with evolution. Typical theist twisting words to confirm meaning in something unrelated.
The fact is that Darwin's missing links are still missing because they never existed.
Wow.
Men were specially created in the image of God.
There it is.
Right, so you are just ignoring all the evidence and saying that a God made humans from dust and ribs, despite that never being demonstrated. It's absolutely absurd. No one does their 23andMe and discovers that they're 1% sand.
Sadly, belief in deceptive evolutionary ideas...
I just cannot believe this fool sits here and lies on the internet about human evolution with hominin fossil replicas on his desk. Like, there's just no shame in these people. Just none. None at all. Like, literally, the evidence is at arm's length from him at all times. What an asshole.
Have led many people to conclude that the God of the Bible doesn't exist, much to the detriment of mankind.
Exactly. So keep
Boom,
on learning,
there it is.
heathens. Teach your kids facts rather than stories. We've got work to do. I'm not entirely sure that any of that really was demonstrating a lack of evidence. It was definitely ignoring a lot and just bringing up some things that were wrong, but also corrected by science and not religion. How ridiculous. But maybe you agree that all this did was prove how little evidence there is for different hominid species. Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as actually plenty of evidence still out there for evolution. A big thank you to this...
Hey, gang, there's a ton of evidence for human evolution. Unfortunately, can't go over all of it in a single video, but trust me, we're in good shape. That was really troubling. The thing that kills with all of this is we have to understand that there's just a huge population of people that are desperate to believe it. And, you know, with their money and their investment and their production value and all of this, it's like comfort food. It's like comfort food. It gives people exactly what they want, helps them sleep easy at night, and, you know, sets off all the positive chemicals for them. But this is, I don't know, it's really frustrating for me. It's kind of hard because at the end of the day, I think apologists like this are holding up the entire faith. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, somebody has to do the dirty work. And so we meet a lot of Christians who keep themselves way away from this stuff. They keep themselves way away from the formal apologetics, or they keep themselves way away from, the uglier parts of their faith or whatever it is. But at the end of the day, they're all part of the same team. They're all part of the same organization. And so I always say that's why I used to always say they're all apologists, because they may not go home and watch William Lane Craig videos, but there's a really good chance their pastor does it for them. They may not work for Answers in Genesis, but there's a really good chance if they're asked to defend their faith or, you ask them tough questions about the Bible, you'll be surprised how fast that rabbit hole leads straight to Answers in Genesis. And that's what troubles me. Because at the end of the day, they all need that. They all need it to be true. Because they're at some level probably aware of the problem. They're at some level aware of, if they're not created, then yeah, that's gonna be a tough one for the Bible to overcome. And so as much as they may want to leave that alone and just be your friendly neighborhood, warm cookies and a cold glass of milk Christians, there's no way of getting around that their faith relies on something that isn't true. And we have the evidence to know that it isn't true. And efforts to defend their faith require them to do bad things, right? Somebody has to attack the science. Somebody has to try to get evolution out of the school. Somebody has to insist that evolution is a religion. Somebody has to make a fake museum. Somebody's got to establish bullshit journals that they can publish in. Somebody has to create a Biola university. You know, like it's on and on and on. There's an entire apologist, anti-intellectual, industrial complex that's necessary to keep people in the faith these days. And we really ought to think about doing something about it, because I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's going to give up without a fight. I don't think it's going to give up without direct confrontation. And I do think they're all creationists. At the end of the day, like I said, how many Christians do you know that will look you in the face and say, we are not created by a God? For me, the answer between serious Christians that would really say that is somewhere between 0 and 0. And if that is the case, they are all creationists. And if they're going to say, I accept evolution, I'm cool with that, but I still believe in God, it's going to be like, you don't understand evolution. Because science is about finding natural explanations of natural phenomena. And having a natural explanation of human evolution means the supernatural one, we don't have any evidence for that. We know the natural thing happened. That means to me any other theory just isn't true. It just flat out isn't true. So whatever song and dance they're giving you, whatever accommodating and compartmentalizing they're doing, they're creationist. They're just the type of creationist that sometimes they're called old earth creationists. That's like one group there. Sometimes they're called theistic evolutionists. Sort of all of those are ways of saying, that they think they accept evolution, but God did it or whatever. But they're wrong. They are those are varieties of creationism. They're different flavors of creationism. They're not scientifically supported positions. All right, gang, that's going to do it for me. I want to get some food at a decent hour and have some time to hang out and play games and chill with the gang and gather and take care of some things around the house, still moving in. So, I need to keep working on getting myself set up here. All right, appreciate you guys. There's links in the descriptions. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment if you're watching later. Appreciate everybody, and we'll see you next time.